So many happy faces, some of you hiding. Okay. I guess it's time to start, huh?
Krishna Guru Maharaj, just before you start, I want to introduce Nanda-Kishore Prabhu. He is the facilitator of this meeting because we're using his account for Zoom account. So he's the person. Yes, who is it?
Okay. Thank you. Hare Krishna, Nanda-Kishore Prabhu.
So happy to see you again, Maharaj. we fondly remember your time here in Dubai at Giriraj Maharaj's residence, in a wonderful class and association with you. Thank you so much. And Maharaj, I must say it's a blessing to be with Dharmagupta Prabhu and Adharya Chandrika Mataji. And we are now we can say somewhat like partners, and she has been telling you about our little initiative under Harinam Anand Prabhu to speak to newcomers about Bhagavad Gita, and it's such amazing Sanga and they're such amazing devotees. I'm privileged to learn so much from them.
Very good. We say in English, partners in crime.
Yes. Thank you so much, Maharaj.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay. Yes, again, welcome everyone. And Om Jnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Shtapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuttapada Kamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavangscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatam Vitam Tang Sahij Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitangscha Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swamin iti namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripasindubhya evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Rishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Haripriye Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. I think before we sing, I'll do my little show and tell. There's a very nice book called Chitra Kavitvani Srila Rupa Goswami. This was prepared by Matsyavatar Prabhu. It is a collection of a small number of verses, which are chitra kavitva, written in an artful way. So I'll just read verse number 1. Again, this is Srila Rupa Goswami. Rupa Goswami is having some fun with the Sanskrit language to glorify Lord Krishna. So in his first verse, he's restricting himself to use exactly 2 consonants, ra and sa. Of course, ra is actually a semi-consonant. He's allowing himself to use different vowels, and he also allows himself to use visarga and anusvara. Visarga is transcribed as an H with a dot under it, sometimes expressed as a repetition of the previous syllable. And anusvar is represented in Roman script M with a dot above it, or actually dot below it in more modern style. And this is usually pronounced sort of like NG. So those are allowed. So here's the verse. Rasasara susarorur asurari sasarasaha sangsarasir asorase surirangsu sasarasaha. Translation. Filled with transcendental amorous desire, Nanda's son, who showers nectar, whose thighs are strong, who is the demon's enemy, and who is the sword that cuts down the cycle of repeated birth and death, entered the rasa dance holding a lotus flower. And again, the Sanskrit. Rasasara susarorur asurari sasarasaha sangsara sirasora surirangsu sasarasaha. Yeah, so this is, I think it would be wonderful if we could meet Srila Rupa Goswami directly and see what a wonderful person he is. Okay, so we can do a bit of singing. We have song number, what are we here with? Number 7?
7, yes.
Of the first part of Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakura's Saranagati. And we're continuing with Dainya, expression of humility. And as we'll see in this song, there is, we might say, an increase of hope expressed. A lot of confessional spirit, but also hope for becoming purified and blessed by Lord Chaitanya. Let's see. Prabhu he Emona Durmati Samsara bhitore Horiya āchinu ami Emona Durmati Samsara bhitore Horiya āchinu ami tava nija-jana kono mahājane patita dile tumi tava nija-jana kono mahājane patita dile tumi doyā kori more patita dekiya kohilo amare giya doyā kori more patita dekiya kohilo amare giya ohe dīna-jana shuno bhalo kata ulasita habe hāiyā ohe dīna-jana shuno bhalo kata ulasita habe hāiyā tamare tarite śrī-kr Chaitanya navadipe avatara tamare tarite Śrī-kr Chaitanya navadipe avatara tamaheno kota dinahina jane korilena bhava-pār tomaheno kota dinahina jane korilena bhava-pār vedera pratigya rakibharatar rukma-varna vipra-suta vedera pratigya rakibharatare rukma-varna vipra-suta mahaprabhu name nadia mataya sange bhai avaduta mahaprabhu name nadia mataya sange bhai avaduta nanda-suta jini Chaitanya Gosai nija-nāma kori dana nanda-suta jini Chaitanya Gosai nija-nāma kori dana tarilo jagata tumi-o jaya loho nija-paritrān tarilo jagata tumi-o jaya loho nija-paritrān sekota shuniya asiyachinata tomara charana tale sekota shuniya asiya chinata tomara charana tale Bhaktivinoda kandiya apana kahini bole Bhaktivinoda kandiya apana kahini bole Emona Durmati sangsara bhitore koriya āchinu ami Emona Durmati sangsara bhitore koriya āchinu ami tava nija-jana kono mahājane pataya dile tumi tava nija-jana kono mahājane patita dile tumi. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Translation, O Lord, such a wicked mind has brought me into this world, but one of your pure and elevated devotees has come to bring me out of it. Emon Durmati samsara bhitore podya āchinu ami tava nija-jana kono mahājane patita dile tumi. And Durmati means bad mind. Here translated as wicked. Wicked mind, samsara bhitore, in this material world, this world of samsara, podya āchinu ami, I, podya, having fallen, have come, I think, or am, āchinu is my guess. Tava nija-jana, your own people, your own person, kono mahājane, one great person, mahājana, or some great person, patita dile tumi, has come to deliver me, I guess, to bring me out. He saw me so fallen and wretched, took pity and came to me saying, "O humbled soul, please listen to this good tiding, for it will gladden your heart." The word tiding is a bit old-fashioned English. It means news, and it's usually, I think it's, no, I was going to say it's almost always good news, but can also be bad tiding, I think. So he saw me so fallen and wretched. Doyā kori more patita dakya, having seen patita, fallen me more. Doyā koriya, to give me mercy. Kahilo amaregiya, kahilo, he spoke to me. Oh hey dīna-jana. We rarely get such noisy sound here, but it's Saturday. Oh hey dīna-jana shuno bhalo kota. Oh hey dīna, we've seen this word many times, means wretched, lowly, fallen. So, O fallen, wretched person, shuno, listen. Listen to what? Bahalo kota. Bahalo means good. Kota, story, or here it's translated news. Ulasita hobe hāiyā. This will gladden your heart. Ulasita. Hāiyā would mean heart, hrit. Then the third verse, tomare tarite. Sri Krishna Chaitanya has appeared in the land of Navadvip to deliver you. He has safely conducted many miserable souls such as you across the sea of worldly existence. He has safely conducted. So, tomare tarite, in order to deliver you, Sri Krishna Chaitanya, Navadvipe avatar, Navadvipe in Navadvip, the avatar of Sri Chaitanya. Of course, sometimes we say, Srila Prabhupada would say that Lord Chaitanya is not exactly avatar, he is avatari. He is the origin, the source of all avatars. But he is descending, and that is the meaning of avatar. So we can say he's also avatar. Toma hano koto dina-hin jane korilen bhava-pār. Bhava-pār would mean crossing over bhava. Bhava means material existence. The sea of material existence. Korilen, they are I, Lord Chaitanya, have made it possible for them. Number 4, to fulfill the promise of the Vedas, the son of a Brahmana, bearing the name Mahaprabhu of golden complexion, has descended with his brother, the Avadutta Nityananda. Together, they have overwhelmed all of Nadia with divine ecstasy. That's interesting. Vedar pratigya. Pratigya means promise. We have this word also in Bhagavad Gita, chapter 9. Krishna makes a promise that the devotee will be delivered. And Vedar pratigya rakibar tare, rukma-varna vipra-suta. What is this? Rukma usually means red. No, golden. Rukma-varna, golden complexion. Vipra-suta, the son of a Vipra, so Jagannath Mishra was a Brahmin, a Vipra. Mahaprabhu Name, his name is Mahaprabhu. Nadia Mataya. Mataya. I guess it means descended, but I'm not sure. Shange Bhai Avadutta. His Bhai, his brother, is the Avadutta, of course, referring to Nityananda Prabhu. Nanda-suta Jini, Chaitanya Gosai, nija-nāma koridan, tarilo jagat, tumi-o jaya, loho nija-paritrān. Sri Chaitanya, who is Krishna himself, the son of Nanda, has saved the world by freely distributing his own name. Nija-nāma, his own name, koriya, done, has given, has made charity, literally. Tarilo jagat, he has delivered the jagat, the whole universe. Tumi-o jaya, go also and receive your deliverance. Okay, so this is Lord Chaitanya still speaking, and he's speaking to Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakura. Tumi-o. Tumi is you, and o is like also. You also. Jaya, be delivered. Loho nija-paritrān, take your own delivery. Literally. And then the last verse, O Lord, hearing these words, Bhaktivinoda has come weeping to the soles of your lotus feet and tells the story of his life. Se kota shunya āchinu tomar charana dile. So shunya, having heard, se kata, this speech of Lord Chaitanya, because the last 3 or 4 verses have been Lord Chaitanya speaking. Tomar se kata shunya āchinu, O Nata, O Lord, āchinu, I am coming. Tomar charane tale, I'm coming to the word tala means, here it means soul. It means the flat part, like Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhu Tale. Tale there means the surface. And it can also be the palms of our hands. So like the palm of the feet, the bottom of the feet. Tomar charana tale. Bhaktivinoda kandiya apan kahini bole kandiya, crying and crying. Apan kahini bole. Kahini means the story. So he's been telling his story over several songs. Whose song? Apan, his own song. Bole has been, is telling. So he's still crying. Bhaktivinoda Thakur is still in this mood of Dainya, because that is what this aspect of Saranagati consists of, the sense of humility. And humility is very much a sense of being very fallen, being very unqualified. But again, here we're getting the major sign of hope. And in this case, we're getting Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's invitation. He is hearing, Bhaktivinoda Thakur is hearing Chaitanya Mahaprabhu personally invite him. Would you like to be personally invited by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu back home, back to Godhead? Bhaktivinoda Thakur, in effect, he is suggesting that that's what Lord Chaitanya is doing. He has come and he's personally inviting all of us to join him, to cross beyond this material world, despite our disqualifications. He's not doing this alone. He is coming together with his dear brother, as he's known. Of course, we understand eternally they are brothers. Krishna and Balarama come as Chaitanya and Nitai, Nityananda. And Nityananda, as the brother of Chaitanya, is exhibiting, we can say, an expansion, an extension of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's mercy, so much so that we sometimes hear Nityananda Prabhu is more merciful than Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So, so this is good news for all of us, not just for Bhaktivinoda Thakur. Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Gaura Premanande Hari Bol. Hare Krishna. Okay, it's time for Show and tell.
Guru Maharaj, today we have 3 devotees sign up. That's Mataji Anandamayi, then Divya Singha Prabhu, and then Dīla Mataji.
Our regulars. Okay.
Ananda Mataji, you can unmute yourself.
Hare Krishna, Guru Maharaj, Hare Krishna, everyone. Hare
Krishna.
Hare Krishna. I prepared something, inspiring us. So I did something, some presentation. I can share the screen. Host. There is some announcement. Can I share the screen?
Yes, can you try once again, please?
Yeah. So this is my presentation. Yeah. This is about relaxing. And I don't see myself anyway. I want to say something about how to relax in specific way. And I have 2 purposes of this presentation. One is to perhaps appreciate another spiritual traditions more, and perhaps receive personal benefit from this appreciation. And the first purpose is appreciation, and I'm quoting you. If you know one religion, you don't know any religion. You are quoting someone, I don't remember who. And in each tradition, we can find certain levels of mysticism, certain value. Of course, we have in our tradition direct access to Krishna, but there is the whole process to pass through, evaluate and make effort. And therefore, I want to present in my book, I write a map, navigation, which connects, situates all traditions, as Krishna elaborated in Bhagavad Gita 12:8-12. So he's saying that if you cannot do this, then if you cannot directly focus on me, then go to the regulative principles of Bhakti Yoga, then to, if not, then to jnana, etc. So here is the map, and there is this complexity of many ways to go to the center, to God, and we can go through this direct way, but also we can go through step-by-step process if we cannot follow, if we cannot focus ourselves so much. And this includes also other paths, other religions, which is my topic of my book. And the second purpose is benefit. We can get the benefit from other sources, other religions. And example is Saint-Germain. And he is, I think, but I heard that he was like our sadhus in Himalayas, that he was living hundreds of years. He was seen in many places later also. He was a Christian associated with Freemasons movement aimed at the spiritual development of man and brotherhood of people of different religions. And there is one book associated with him, Golden Book. It is the name of this book. It is quite complex book, and I'm recommending this and not so much, because this is a deep text with many layers of understanding. But what was interesting for me in this book, that this is a purification or modulation of thoughts as the base for purity. And I am connecting this. This is the example of other traditions which we connect with our tradition. And this is the first aspect of Panchatattva Shiva's Thakur, pure devotee. And the Brahman, I am that energy of God. This is not the Aham Brahmasmi, I am the ultimate, this impersonalist, but it is like Tatashta Shakti, or this marginal energy. And the fact of the pure devotee, fourth level above the three modes, and pure soul. So he's saying in this book that I am, this aspect of I am, is moving the machine, the yantra of this energy as I wish. So I am the doer. So we know from Bhagavad Gita. So he's saying also that it is the highest understanding without which there is no freedom of perfection. And he's saying also about the spectrum of angels or demigods or helpers who are always helping us in this way. We can connect, you mentioned today this rasa dance, this poem, and we can connect also all helpers, like in ISKCON we have this guiders, masters. In spiritual world we have gopis, 108 gopis, 9 gopis, and many others, helpers, who are helping us on the way, on each level, like the ladder. They are helping us, like we are passing, like in the rasa dance, we are passing from one to the another person dancing in this way. So he is saying that this is the appeal to the divine presence of God, to release the stream of perfection everywhere on the earth. And I was thinking here about the situation we have with this coronavirus, how it is good to have the support also from other sources to become strong in this way. He's saying also that life is God in action. Due to lack of knowledge, people are constantly hindering the law of life essence in everything. So thoughts and words, I can't, I don't have, hold back this energy. And here's nice sentence that this is the enormous power you have. Dynamite is less dangerous. It breaks the body, but stupid thoughts without control attach you to the wheel of reincarnation infinitely. So when you say I'm sick, you deliberately distort the natural perfection of life. It is the lie, because divinity is perfect. So this is like this connection with our situation now, that something is going on wrong direction. And he's saying that it is the harm on your own divinity, I am, therefore you cannot attain perfection. So he's saying, he's strong quite. He's saying, stop giving this power to external affairs. I'm sick, poor, etc. Also to people, places, and even items. And he's saying that you have to do it yourself. It's your job, your effort. And the first step is the law of forgiveness. It starts it all. And this is the introduction, and later he's saying some affirmations. I am is perfection. So finding in ourselves, in us, some energy which is divine and which changes everything in our lives, in other lives, in the world also. So when I was, I had some difficulties. This book came to me, and it made me relaxed, you know, because these affirmations and everything was quite nice for me. So this is my presentation. I was trying to do it quickly. So thank you for your attention.
Thank you. I'm trying to look, I must confess, I was just now trying to find Saint Germain in Wikipedia. But
Yeah,
there's so many Saint Germains, so I couldn't tell. When did he live?
Yeah, because 18th century, how do you spell it?
5th century?
No, 18th.
18th century.
Century.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. I don't know. Doesn't seem to be one that fits that description here.
Yeah, because they are telling that he was quite.
Oops, we lost her. Sudden disappearance. Nandamai disappeared. Anyway, I guess she'll come back. Okay.
Now we have Divya Simha, Prabhu.
Yes.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Dandavat Pranam, Guru Maharaj.
Haribo, Haribo.
First of all, I want to put obeisance to you, Guru Maharaj, and encourage devotee who doesn't speak. It is break some etiquettes, Vaishnav, that I am, how to say, wanna speak. I know that is not good. Better is when someone chose you to speak. But today I want to encourage everyone of listeners to speak, because when we're speaking, this is good to for our heart, for our soul, because the speaking is not for our pleasure. This is for Guru Gauranga pleasure. This is my humbling understanding this. I was very impressed. The songs Bhaktivinoda Thakura show us that spiritual master is person who take us from this world. And we have two words, material words and spiritual. And we are tatashta, means like on the seed sides is a place, it's not water, not suns, it's tatashta energy. And this is our choice, that we will be on this side or this side. And I was thinking about dialogue, what is the subject matter of this seminar. And I have internal dialogue, dialogue in heart, that for the one side, I must do these things. As you see, I am on the work, I selling paintings for family life. And second, life is a life standing on, wake up morning, chanting, be connect with this beautiful energy. And I see how this energy is different when you speak, Guru Maharaj, when you sing this song, all this material will disappear immediately. This is such a beautiful energy of Krishna conscious. And as you said, Gaura Mahaprabhu is a main person who is on these songs, and Bhaktivinoda Thakur, who is a Gaura Shakti Svarup, is a special person who gives us these beautiful songs. And Gaura Mahaprabhu is Shaktiman, the person who is avatari, source of all avatars, all incarnation is inside. Ram, Narasimha, Vaman, all parikars, all associates want to be with Gaura Mahaprabhu. All devotees from different yugas, Satya, Dvapara, wants to be in this special Kali Yuga. And this is amazing that we are living in this time. And what can I say? I am so grateful, Guru Maharaj, that I can be with such a beautiful association, because here in this material world, people mostly doesn't believe in God, doesn't want to be with God for the beginning. But when the power of Prabhupada's books the soul change the mood inside and want to be with Krishna, because this is our internal position. Sorry, Maharaj, Guru Maharaj, I must stop here. I shouldn't be emotional. I know I should be devotional. It's such a statement. Sorry for that.
Emotional, devotional.
Yes. I thank you
right.
so much. Dandavat pranam to everyone.
Where are you speaking? Where are you speaking from right now? Are you on the coast?
No, I am on. This is my little shop in some small business. I make paintings.
Yeah.
And selling for people.
It looks like you're outdoors.
Yes, yes, on the sky.
Nice.
Yes.
And this is in Warsaw?
No, this is Darłówek, seaside, Baltic place. Like Rasala Prabhu, many devotees make similar.
Yeah.
This is the time.
Yes, this is that time of year.
Thank you, Maharaj.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you so much.
Hare Thank you. Okay. Yeah.
Hare Krishna. I'm sorry, some connection was broken, so I was lost. Yeah. Sorry for that.
Oh, we got a link here. I just now see for Wikipedia, Saint Germain Theosophy. Okay, I'll look at that later. Yeah, I was going to add, you Anandamai, made a quote in the very beginning. One who knows one religion knows no religion. That's from Max Müller. Max Müller was a German Indologist, 19th century, who was a professor at Oxford. And he's famous for publishing many books from not just India, sacred books of the East. And he also published for the first time the Rig Veda. That's Max Müller. He said, one who knows one religion knows no religions. What he meant by that, was that we don't have any perspective if we only know our own religious tradition, then we don't have any perspective on it. We don't have, you know, like having two eyes, we have three-dimensional vision. So he was emphasizing that it's important to. He had some kind of appreciation of Indian religion, although in a very imperialistic sort of way. Anyway, okay, so.
Anyway, thank you.
All right. So then, now.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, we can barely hear you.
Hare Krishna. I can speak louder.
Okay.
Is that better?
That's better. Yes.
Well, I have, as you know very much, I'm going on and on all the time about this growing vegetables and growing in the garden. I have one little like intermezzo, or so to say, little plant to just to show to everyone. It's a little plant called thyme. Looks like this.
Okay.
I'm propagating it now. Why am I showing this plant is that it's very easy to grow in the pot, and it's very useful for this time of COVID. It's antiviral, antifungal, antimicrobial, and antibiotic. So it means it does look after our body if we do have it. It's called Thymus vulgaris, as is the original name of the thyme, and it's because there are different types. This one is the most potent one. It can help in this time of this viral infection going on. That's one little thing. But I would like to share with, if that's okay, about my experience of interfaith dialogue that I've had with few people, but I chose only one. If that's okay, or is that
Yeah.
maybe
Go ahead.
Okay. It was about 8-10 years ago in the temple. There was one Jewish lady came with a stick. She was sort of over 60 years old, and she was sitting at a bench at the reception. And at that time, I had all day service at the temple, so I was sort of running around. And she stopped me once.
You're talking about Bhaktivinoda Manor, right?
Yes, I'm talking about Bhaktivinoda Manor, yes.
Mm.
And she stopped me and asked me, could I ask you, do you have anyone who could spend with me at least an hour or two every day? Because I'm going through very hard times right now. She said, my son is going to have open heart surgery, and I'm Jewish. I don't practice. I've got a husband who's Catholic, and that's why the Orthodox Jewish synagogue don't welcome her as much. And she was in distress. And I said to her, well, I could be here for you 1 hour a day or two. It's no problem. So my experience with that, developing that relationship, was that first, maybe week, two, I was only listening to her. I was listening a lot about her life, about how she wants to practice religion, but somehow, because she's married to Catholic, she's not accepted by Jewish, and she's also vegetarian, and most of Jewish practitioners are not vegetarians. So, and she asked me, what are you guys all about? I see you outside singing and this and that. What's that? So gradually we came to. She mentioned. I asked her a question. What do you call God in Jewish? She said, well, we call him Hashem. But she said, in Orthodox tradition, you're not allowed to mention the actual name of God because it's disrespectful. And then that was sort of a connection for me to tell her about names of God that we use in our chanting and about the power of the name of God. So she took to chanting. She took Bhagavad Gita. And I was sort of with her all the way till her son's surgery. Her son was 30 years old then, and he had some heart problems since he was a child. Then he survived the surgery, open heart surgery, and she was very grateful. She thought that all these prayers that we've done together did help her. And I also found out that there is a liberal Jewish synagogue where people who are not Jewish could go and visit. And it's here nearby. Later on, she got divorced from her husband and she stopped sort of calling me. But I was thinking now, after being inspired by your classes about interfaith dialogue, maybe I should go and contact her, even though quite a few years had passed, and see how she's doing, because she was very favorable and she was sort of looking for her path, for her way of practicing God consciousness. And I tried to be there for her as much as I could. And I also found out that she was very a good friend, very honest, and found out that even if somebody isn't on our path that we are following, they are very sincere people as humans and have values that can be appreciated if one is honest.
Mm-hmm.
So that was just one thing that I wanted to share. It was a very positive experience, and since then I had few connections with Orthodox priests and Mormons, and it was very funny that some Mormons boys, they were selling their Mormon books on the street. It was winter time, and I invited them to come to our house for dinner, and they came. One was called Wyatt, he was from Idaho, and another was called Kimball. He was from, I think, somewhere from Los Angeles, I think.
Oh.
And the boys, 18, 19 years old. They came, and I was genuinely interested to see what's their life about. And because I told them that we are Hare Krishnas, I said we also sell books about Krishna on the street. I was very open with them. And they said that it's never ever happened to them that somebody offered them dinner. So they were so happy, and they took cake back home, and they were the first people that contacted Jai Lakshman and I when this coronavirus started, asking, do you need any help? They said, if you need wood chopping, if you need anything, like, do you want us to do shopping for you, because we're young boys, we have lots of energy. That was really touching, actually. They were personal. They're personal. So these are my experiences that I wanted to share with everyone, and it's just wonderful to preach the relationship and then tell them something about Krishna.
Very nice. Thank you. So are you going to visit the Jewish lady?
I am going to, yes. I've decided to contact her first and visit her. Yes, I am. Thank you very much.
You mentioned the Mormons. These young boys who travel and preach, they get very good training.
They told us about it.
And they're always very, very well behaved. They're always well dressed.
Well dressed.
Suit and tie. And they have a program. They go for 2 years. It's like 2 years brahmachari life. And when they get back home, they have a whole life waiting for them. Whether it's continued education or or a job, but that's one thing we can learn a lot from the Mormons. They're incredibly good at maintaining a sense of community. They really, really support each other, help each other, and as you said, they'll go beyond their own community. They'll help others very happily.
Yes.
In fact, the Mormons have given substantial donations to the Krishna temple outside Salt Lake City in Utah.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, I mean, thousands of dollars they've given. And also, I mean, this is, anyway, it's kind of connected. I heard this, you know, we have our holy festival, throwing of colors, celebrating spring, following Krishna's pastime. So Charu Prabhu, the temple president at these temple in Utah, Salt Lake City, started having this festival, and it became hugely popular with all these Mormon young people coming. And they pay something, I don't know if admission or they pay for the colors or what it is. But what I heard is that the temple collects from this one festival that goes on just for, I guess, just one day, maybe more. They collect so much money that it covers all their maintenance costs for the entire year of the temple. And Radhika Raman was explaining that the parents of these kids who come for the holy festival, these Mormon kids and their parents, the parents are very happy about it. Why? Because it's good, clean fun, as we say in America. It's you know, it's not something degraded. It's just, it's fun, and it's sattvic, and so they like that. They're very sattvic people.
Very sattvic, and they're also very genuine, very honest about what they do, how they get trained. They never know when they're going to be transferred to some other city or to some other country.
Yeah.
To preach. So we've exchanged the books. They gave us the books of Mormons, and I gave them Bhagavad Gita. So and they also did ask questions.
Oh yeah, good.
And they ate all on their plates. They said they're trained to eat everything that's on their plate, no matter if they like it or not.
Oh. Okay, well, so you don't really know whether they liked it or not.
But they say they did.
Okay.
Thank you, Guru Maharaj.
Hare Krishna. Okay, so, yeah, shall we proceed with some dialogical Vaishnavism? You haven't all gotten tired of this subject yet?
No, Guru Maharaj.
You're all just being polite. Okay, then I have to share the screen. Here we are. Whoa. Oh, there we are. Okay. Okay, so we have been talking about the official ISKCON interfaith statement, and then we've also talked about some discussion of that statement, some elaboration, which has been done by the communications devotees. And now I want to share just two statements. These are also official interfaith statements from other traditions. I've just come across this I found interesting, from Qazi Abdul Qadir Hamosh, who is some sort of Muslim leader in Pakistan. Something I read said he is with the Muslim Brotherhood, which is quite controversial, but we don't need to go into that. Just let's look at his statement, which is referring to, he's quoting from the Quran. And incidentally, he is a Qazi. We know this term Qazi from Chaitanya Charitamrita. I don't know what is the position of a Qazi, but in any case, he says, dialogue is not about trying to defeat others, but about understanding and learning about them. The Quran insists that the world's beauty lies in its racial and religious pluralism. Otherwise, God would not have created it so. And he's referring to two verses, two surahs there. The Quran states, quote, "O mankind, lo, we have created you male and female, and have made you nations and tribes, that ye may know one another." Every religion has developed a message around human values of peace, love, tolerance, and mutual respect. Interfaith dialogue can build on these commonalities to strengthen the world community of believers and can save religion from being maligned by those bent on destroying it. Maligned means insulted or offended or saying bad things about something is to malign it. Yeah, so I thought that's interesting. If we meet Muslim people, we may quote this to say, one of your people is saying this about interfaith dialogue. Do you agree? And there we have it. Then we have a conversation, whether they agree or not. With maybe they say, no, he is not. We don't follow him. We have someone else. Anyway. And then, okay. Then we have an official statement from the Roman Catholic Church. This is several decades ago from the papal, what is it called? Statement Nostra Aetate. The declaration on the relation of the Roman Catholic Church to non-Christian religions. This has two parts. I mean, it's a much longer paper, but I've extracted from it. So this says, in this age of ours, when men are drawing more closely together, I don't know if they're coming closer together, and the bonds of friendship between different peoples are being strengthened. That's pretty hopeful. The church examines with greater care the relation which she has to non-Christian religions. Ever aware of her duty to foster unity and charity among individuals, and even among nations, she reflects at the outset on what men have in common and what tends to promote fellowship among them. And it continues. and here's specific reference to Hinduism. Thus, in Hindu, they refer to many different traditions, and here they say, thus in Hinduism, men, and that's quoting directly, explore the divine mystery and express it both in the limitless riches of myth and the accurately defined insights of philosophy. They seek release from the trials of the present life by ascetical practices, profound meditation, and recourse to God in confidence and love. So that's, yeah, we could, of course, talk about this, how much we appreciate it or don't appreciate it. One general thought I had in reading this from Nostra Aetate is that it might be considered, the tone is possibly, can be read as condescending. So in the previous part, in this part, the church examines with great care the relation she has to non-Christian religions. So that can be taken in a positive way. Okay, that's nice that they're examining, because prior to this, of course, this is 1965. The Second Vatican Council was right around this time, or a little earlier, I think. And this is considered a hugely radical, kind of revolutionary in many ways, changes in the Catholic Church, before which one could not expect to see any such statement. The Church examines the relation with non-Christian religions. No, we don't examine. Here it says they examine with greater care the relation she has to non-Christian religions. And then it says she reflects. She, of course, is referring to the church. They have this idea of the church as a kind of feminine reality of the community, the communion of members of the church. She reflects at the outset on what men have. Of course, this is 1965 again, before there was a change in English usage. Nowadays, you would be heavily criticized to just say men. You'd have to say men and women. But at that time, men meant men and women, as this is how Srila Prabhupada also wrote. The outset on what men have in common and what tends to promote fellowship among them. Okay, so that's nice. They're reflecting on this. Yeah, and then there's this sort of representation of Hinduism, very brief. And they don't say that Hinduism has any qualification of, let's say, ultimate reality, of understanding ultimate reality. They're simply saying that Hindu people explore the divine mystery, and they express it in the limitless riches of myth and the accurately defined insights of philosophy. So, of course, we might not be very happy with the word myth, because myth usually implies fiction. This is how Srila Prabhupada would use the word myth, although it can have a much richer meaning than that. They seek release from the trials of the present life by ascetic practices, profound meditation, and recourse to God in confidence and love. it doesn't say that they reach release from the trials. It just says they seek. Okay, so they're not really committing themselves to anything, but that's perhaps understandable. Well, this is just to keep in mind that if we think in terms of official religious interfaith dialogue, then we may want to know if we're having some dialogue. Well, the dialogue doesn't have to be official, but we may be talking with someone who is Roman Catholic background. Then it's nice to know what the church says about dialogue, what they say about Hinduism. And it's very possible that the person you are speaking with is not aware of this. In fact, in general, we can say the vast majority of practitioners of any tradition may have very little knowledge about their own tradition. And so when you find out something about the tradition, you may be able to help them appreciate their own tradition. You may also surprise them. This was 3 years ago, almost. This was in the news. There was a joint statement by Pope Francis and Patriarch Bartholomew of the Eastern Orthodox Church. I suppose we can look it up and see exactly what they said. But this was on a particular day, the World Day of Prayer for the Care of Creation. So that's nice. We can appreciate whenever there's some common statement of common appreciation. We can see it as a good thing. Now, when I do this seminar in Mayapur, we have this discussion. In fact, I break the group into smaller groups, and they discuss these two questions. What aspects of present-day ISKCON culture are favorable to dialogical activity? And then the second question is the counterpart. What aspects of ISKCON are unfavorable to dialogical activity? For now, I'm just going to leave those questions there, and you are welcome to reflect on these, and maybe one or more of you would like to say something about this next time. Or we'll see, maybe we have time also before we stop today. But I'm going to move on for now. And I'm moving on to something slightly different by suggesting, because I may have mentioned some time ago the idea of interreligious literacy. This is the idea which comes also related to what we heard Max Muller saying, he who knows one religion knows no religions. Most probably all of us have some kind of background in a dominant religious tradition of our country, and very possibly for most of you that is Christianity, and very possibly for most of you that'll be Roman Catholic, but for some of you it may be some form of Protestant. And I remember when I was a small boy being taken to Sunday school by my mother, together with my older brother. And we were getting trained up in some of the essentials of the biblical Christian tradition. And one thing we had to do was to memorize the 10 Commandments. I still remember from, I mean, since I can remember almost, this was somehow part of schooling, was you had to memorize things. So we memorized the 10 Commandments. So here they are. There are different versions of the 10 because whether you're Catholic, Protestant, Jewish, these will be divided up and ordered, put in different orders. But they are, of course, found in the, what is it, the Pentateuch, the 5 books, the Torah, the 5 books of the Hebrew Bible. And what we have here are so many commandments. And the idea of a commandment, I never understood what that means exactly when I was a small boy. But it sounded terribly, it sounded kind of scary. A commandment, something that's absolutely not negotiable. Before we look at these 10 commandments, though, I wanted to go back for just a moment to something we introduced 2 or 3 times ago, 2 or 3 weeks ago. We had my professor, Ninian Smart, who introduced this idea of understanding religion in terms of 7, what he called dimensions: the narrative dimension, the ritual dimension, the emotional dimension, the social institutional dimension, the material dimension, the doctrinal dimension, and the ethical and legal dimension. So again, if we had, if we wanted to, if we were all together in a room, it would be easier. We could look at these and see how these 10 commandments fit into these 7 categories. And I think if we had enough time to think about it, we would find ways that it fits within all 7 of them. But we might want to begin with the very last one on the bottom right, ethical and legal, because perhaps most obviously, this is what these 10 commandments are. They are ethical or legal commandments. And for the most part, they are telling us what not to do. There are 2 of them, I think, that are speaking in a more positive way. But the first 3 are thou shalt not. And this is Old English, sort of old, I guess it's 17th century English, actually. The King James Version of the Bible. This was the Bible translated under the order, excuse me, of King James. I think he was 17th century England. So thou shalt have no other gods before me. Thou shalt not worship any graven image. Thou shalt not take God's name in vain. Again, these are 3 negatives, and they are commands, which suggests, as I said, they're non-negotiable. They are absolute. And if we think about the narrative of how these 10 commandments came to Moses, so then we would have the narrative dimension. There's a story, there's a history. The tradition would say it's not a story, it's a history. That God appeared on the mountain in the burning bush, and he left on, was it 2 stone tablets, if I remember correctly, inscribed these 10 commandments, which then Moses took and brought down the mountain and brought to his people. And in this way, he gave them what was called the covenant. This was the contract of God, his people. And there's a very strong sense of identifying the Jewish people as being God's people. So if they follow these rules, then they can be understood to be in receiving the blessings of God. So we could probably say a lot about each one of these, or all of them collectively. And we might think about these in relation to Krishna's instructions in Bhagavad Gita. First of all, if we think about the idea of commandment, Krishna is also making commandment in Bhagavad Gita. He is commanding Arjuna to stand up and fight. He is commanding manmana bhava mad bhakto madhyaji mam namaskuru. This is a commandment. Bhava means be like this. And offer your obeisance to me. Namaskuru. Kuru means do it. So he's making many commands. And of course, sarvadharman prityaja mam ekam sharanam vraja. Again, vraja is a command. It's imperative form. So that's one way we could think about a connection. But we may also think about differences. We may think about contrast. I'm thinking about how Krishna describes the three modes of material nature. And so he's elaborating that in order to make progress in spiritual life, we want to uplift by making good choices up to sattva guna, the mode of goodness. In this list of commandments, we don't really have any sense of that. We don't have a sense of there being higher and lower modes of nature or modalities of being. And so one point further we could say about this is for everyone. There's an assumption made that with respect to these commandments, everyone is equal. Everyone is equal suggests a kind of egalitarianism, which is nice. We can appreciate that. The second one, thou shalt not worship any graven image. When I was a small boy, I never understood that word graven, and I never asked either, but it sounded like something really terrible. Because I heard about at the cemetery, you have graves. The cemetery, where you put those who have died under the ground, that's called a grave. So I thought that a graven image is something like that. But of course, the word graven is also kind of archaic English. Graven means carved, means you have a chisel or you have a knife and you form something. It means any formed image. Now, this particular commandment we may have problems with. After all, what do we have in our temples if not graven images? Or conversely, we could say, people who follow the Abrahamic traditions could have a problem with us because we seem to be worshiping graven images. Well, that's a bigger topic, and I won't go into it here. I've been, in fact, this is what the first portion of this book I'm writing now, called called Krishna's Wonderful Form, a Guide for the Perplexed. The first part I'm talking about, so-called idolatry, and I'm explaining through our tradition how we understand that this is not breaking this commandment. Now the next commandment, remember the Shabbat, the Sabbath, to keep it holy. I've thought about this lately because of the situation we're in now with the lockdown of so many activities that were taken for granted that we do all over the world, suddenly from one day to the next have been stopped because of the pandemic. And this brought me to think that this shutdown, this lockdown, in a way it's like an extended Shabbat. It's a way, we may say, that the Lord has forced the world to slow down. And of course, in the Abrahamic traditions, the Shabbat is one day of the week, and it's a time for stopping one's normal activities and for simply engaging in spiritual activities. That would be our basic understanding. In the Jewish tradition, it's Saturday. The Christians made it into Sunday, as far as I know, mainly to make a distinction between themselves and the traditional Jews. So Shabbat it's something that's been perhaps too much neglected. Again, when I grew up, well, now I think it's very much the case here in Poland that shops are closed on Sunday. When I was young, shops were closed on Sunday. It was just basically nothing happened. Churches were open, shops were closed. But over the years, more and more and more, big shopping became the thing that you do on Sunday. You go shopping. Yeah. There's been some reaction to that in some places, and now it's, I think, some places, Poland, I think, going back to that. The next one, number 5, honor thy father and thy mother. Well, do we have any objection to that? I don't think so. In Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, Deva Dvija Guru Pragya Pujanam Socham Arjavam Brahmacharyam Ahingsang Cha Shariram Tapa Uchyate. Different activities of austerity for the body in the mode of goodness. Deva Vija Guru Pragya Pujanam. The worship of Deva, which can mean either the Supreme Lord or it can mean the Devatas, the higher divinities, the demigods. Dvija, the twice-born. Guru, we may say the spiritual father. Pujanam, pragya, the learned or the wise, and then pujanam, some worship of them is to be done. And it's also mentioned, not there, it's in one, it's the next one, austerity, vanmayan tapa uchate, the austerities of speech. One of them is svadhyaya. Svadhyaya means recitation or meditation on Veda, and Veda is understood to be mother. So in that way we can say we're respecting mother. And of course also Krishna says in the Gita, he is the father and the mother. The earth is also mother. The cow is also mother. And of course one's own mother. All of them are to be respected. The next one, Srila Prabhupada quoted frequently as a critique of the Abrahamic traditions, because the command is thou shalt not kill. And here Prabhupada would say, how is it that you are killing so many animals? And the answer may be, well, that killing in the commandment only refers to human beings. To which Srila Prabhupada would say, no, to kill is to kill. To kill a human being, that's called murder. We have a different word for that. So, so this would be a point that we like to challenge people with. This is your tradition. It says, thou shalt not kill, but you are killing. The next, we may say, are not difficult to agree with. Thou shalt not commit adultery. Thou shalt not steal. Thou shalt not bear false witness. Thou shalt not covet. Commit adultery means to have sexual relation with a person outside of marriage. In ancient Judea, ancient Jewish tradition, as far as I don't know how it was for the men. Here was definitely a very harsh distinction made between men and women. If a woman were convicted of adultery, she could be stoned to death. What would happen to the man? This I don't remember hearing about, but there was a very vicious understanding at that time. It's interesting, in contrast, most countries of the world today, adultery is not a crime at all. It can be the basis for divorce. You can go to court and say, my spouse has committed adultery, and they can say, oh, okay, in that case, you want a divorce? Yes, I want a divorce. Okay, divorce is allowed. But it's not a crime. But it could cost your life in ancient Judea, at least for women. Thou shalt not steal. Fair enough, we can agree to that. But we can extend that and say we should not just steal from other humans. We should not steal from God. Everything belongs to God. We should not steal anything from God. So this would be a basis for dialogue. One could discuss this commandment. What does it mean to not steal? False witness means not being truthful. So, anudvega karang vakyam satyam priya hitam chayat. Satyam means truthfulness. And then thou shalt not covet. Actually, these is shortened version. The original is longer. It gives details. You should not covet, which means you should not desire to possess the things that are owned by your neighbor. And I remember, I still remember from childhood, neither his ox nor his ass. Ass means donkey. Don't desire your neighbor's ox or your ass. And again, when I was a small child, it was hard for me to understand because none of our neighbors had either oxen or asses. So I didn't know how does it relate? Okay. Now I think we could start with my next session, or we could stop here and see if anyone has a comment or a question, in which case I have to stop share. And this is not related, but I see Pracharananda could not resist to write time, T-H-Y-M-E, time I am destroyer of all diseases. He's referring to Dhira Lalita speaking about the herb time. Okay. Sugopi Tungavidya is speaking about having an accident, and the Muslim people in the street helped us by taking us to the hospital, and surprisingly, they didn't accept any money. They also went to my parents to inform about the accident. Yeah, that's nice experience. And then you're asking, I guess, the reference to mythology generally used in quoting Hindu deities or texts. This is very often the case. The idea, I mean, that's a big subject, but what is myth? In the Greek tradition, ancient Greek, there was mythos and logos. And these were contrasted. So all of the stories of the Greek gods and that were described, especially by Homer and others, all of this was sort of collectively referred to by the Greek philosophers, starting, I don't know, starting with Plato, and then later Aristotle. They would contrast mythos with logos, and logos generally means something like reason. And so they're saying, well, we have all these stories. Some of them are quite fantastical, maybe difficult to believe. And we who are now wanting to, we want to engage in a different way of thinking, a different way of understanding. And for that, we're going to prioritize reason. This was the general idea, to put it in very simple terms. And so with this came more and more suspicion of mythos. And again, the contrast was there, mythos, logos. And it took on this sense which we find prominent today, and which in the way Srila Prabhupada would use it, namely, myth means fiction. Myth means something which has been invented some by fertile imagination and nothing more. And so Srila Prabhupada, many times you'll see in his books and his conversations and lectures, he'll say, what we read in the Bhagavatam and so on, this is not myth. And then the collection of accounts of creation and so on, collectively, that will be called mythology. And also the study of myth is called mythology. And some will make a distinction between myth and legend, where myth specifically has to do with giving account of creation of the world. So telling how it happens that the world exists and how does it come about, those accounts are considered myth. And legend tends to be all the stories which accumulate over time and which we can say cannot be verified with any sort of modern understanding of historical verification. That would be legends. So we have lots of legends. For example, I mentioned, I think some time ago, about Joan of Arc, the French woman saint. And also we just heard about Saint Germain. I suspect there may be some legends surrounding her. There will be so many legends surrounding different saints, which means you cannot verify that they are true in a sort of strictly historical way, using our modern understanding of history. Yeah, I just see that Rajali Lavati is here. She is our official historian. Do you want to say something about that, Rajali Lavati? No. Okay. Oh, you're outside, I see. Okay. Yeah, so that's my understanding of. Then, was that your question, Sugopi?
Hare Krishna Maharaj. Thank you very much. Yes. Yeah, as you were talking about the graven image, and it was occurring in my mind for some time that we have yuga dharmas, like different yugas had a different way of worshipping Lord. So in this Kali Yuga, it is non-sing Sankirtana, and whereas in the Yuga before Kali Yuga, Dwapar Yuga, it was image worship. So we are still into idol worship or image or deity worship, more specifically deity worship. So how do we then, are we following the Yuga Dharma? And can you explain a little more on this? Because I think that other religions are actually not so much into image worship.
Indeed. Yeah, one way of understanding this that it's been explained to me that it's maybe it was Satsarup Maharaj explained that our primary dharma in this age is Harinam Sankirtan, and the other dharmas are not eliminated. It's not that we don't do deity worship. It's not that we don't. We also do yagyas sometimes. We also do meditation. Our meditation is chanting the holy name especially, but it can also be lila smarana and so on. But the dominant dharma for our age is chanting the holy name. Now, if we try to relate that to Abrahamic traditions, it may be difficult because according to fundamentalist Christians, the world has been created just 6,000 years ago. So this idea of 4 yugas, how do you deal with that? On the other side, it is interesting. From our perspective, we may understand, okay, they received these commandments. One of them is no deity worship. And we might want to say, okay, so for those people in the tradition of Central Asia at the time, God commanded, just forget about deity worship because you're not going to do it right. It's going to be offensive if you do it. So better you don't do it. So in that way, we could understand, not as an absolute statement for all time, but a statement for a particular time and particular place. Okay, Divya Singha has a question. Does a Nitya Siddha devotee have a more difficult task by engaging in dialogue with people from the world of Maya, Mahamaya, or is it better for the dialogue to be conducted by a sadhana siddha? When it comes to the point of siddha, we always hear that there's no difference. We don't make a distinction. They don't make any distinction amongst themselves. The associates of the Lord, whether they've always been there or they got there through their sadhana or so, they don't make that distinction. But perhaps we want to instead consider kanishta, madhyama, and uttama adhikari in terms of how they relate to different people. So the kanishta or prakrita bhakta, prakrita adhikari, it's understood has a difficult time relating with other people, has difficult time relating with other devotees. The kanishta adhikar is very good at doing rituals and so on, but has a hard time with relating in a good way with the world. And then we have the madhyama adhikari, and here I think is the territory where we want to locate ourselves or aspire to be, where there are different relations according to the attitude of the persons that we're interacting with. And this is where we have the verse Ishvare tat adineshu balisheshu dvishatsucha prema maitri kripopeksha yakaroti sa madhyama. It's a kind of definition. Of course, relating to the Lord with prema, with love, with devotion. Maitri is the relationship we want to cultivate with devotees. And now here is the interesting question. Who is a devotee? If we're talking in the context of dialogue, I suggest we want to try to be charitable and see those who are seriously, let's say in a vague sense, seriously committed to their tradition and to their practices. Let's see them as devotees and then relate to them in that way. Then balisheshu dvishatsu cha prema maitri kripa upeksha. Kripa, to give mercy, to share the Lord's mercy with those who are bala, who are innocent, is usually the word here. So there can be a sort of combination of devotee, devotee and innocent, we might want to say, in the context of interfaith or interreligious dialogue. And then upeksha is sometimes translated as indifference, but it has a sense of also neutrality, not being disturbed by dvisha, by those who are one way or another inimical, or who think they are inimical. I say think they are inimical because someone may not be really inimical when they come to understand what we are about. And we hear stories of people who they start out inimical and then they learn something about devotees and they become friends and they become appreciating. So that's the Madhyama platform, and that's the sphere in which we want to engage in this dialogical attitude, dialogical way of life, I would say. And it's said that the Uttama Adhikari, when he or she is engaging in interacting in this world, she or he comes down to the Madhyama platform. Why is that? Because the Uttama platform is very difficult to, in a sense, also relate with others because one sees everyone as a devotee. And having said that, this can also be this may be the ideal platform on which interreligious dialogue takes place. It has been said that the best dialogue among people of different religious traditions takes place amongst the ascetics of those traditions, amongst the monks and the nuns and so on. And why is that? Because they are more in a position of being detached, and also they are more engaged in their own tradition to have a deeper sense of their own tradition, allowing them to have a deeper perception of another person and their faith. It at least in theory, the renounced way of life is potentially allowing us to be more open to access the spiritual dimension of other people's lives. That doesn't necessarily mean we all have to be sannyasis officially, but as Prabhupada would say, a preacher, anyone who is a preacher, is committed to practicing a life which is actually one of austerity, of renunciation. So this makes it a special capacity for, devotees potentially we have a special capacity to interact with others in positive dialogue. Okay, Avadhuta Rai wants to call our attention to the Matsyavatar story in the Bible, and the Kalki avatar and the white horse at the end of the Bible in Revelation. Fire speaking, personifying God when giving 10 commandments looks like 3 examples. Okay, this looks like 3 examples of Vedas in the Bible. Yeah, we might like to make parallels. And here I would just say we have to also be a little cautious. For ourselves, we may appreciate these parallels, but this parallel of the story of the flood was taken by, what was his name? Sir William James. In the late 18th century, he was he was a chief justice of some sort in Kolkata. He was British, and he was a very industrious scholar of Sanskrit literature. He learned Sanskrit. He translated, I think with help, but he translated the Manu Samhita. And he wrote many essays and articles, and he wrote one essay on this subject of the story of the flood. But he wrote from a Christian perspective. He was committed to Christianity at the time. And for him, the story of the flood, which is in the Bhagavatam, and it's also in other Puranas, were perverted reflections of the real story for him in the Bible. So as we think about such parallels, we may have to think about how we make those parallels and with whom. Oh, yes, the question comes about, someone may raise the question, how, if we agree on the command, thou shalt not kill, how is it that Krishna is commanding Arjuna to kill on the battlefield? So that's where we make distinctions, and that's where also in the biblical tradition there would be distinctions made, because in fact there's a lot of killing in the Bible, which is considered righteous. And then you have the whole discussion about just war theory, and we might say very briefly that in the case that God commands you to fight on the battle for the purpose of establishing Dharma, it might be justified. But even there we have to be careful, because anyone can come along and say, oh, I've been ordered by God to, kill these people. And then they take out a machine gun and they start killing people. It was order of God. So we would say, yes, here's a case of God commanding to kill, and that is a special case. And we say in English, the exception proves the rule. The exception proves the rule. There is a rule, and then there will be exceptions. But the exception may be extremely narrow with specific conditions that make it justified. Okay, and then we have Avadhuta Rai saying there are the young earth creationists believing in 6,000-year-old earth, and old earth creationists accept the scientific calculations of the age of the earth. Yes, there's there's a whole variety there. I was just mentioning the 6,000-year people, but that's not to say all Christians believe that. That would be just the literalist readers of the Bible. Well, Hare Krishna, here we are. It's that time again. And I want to thank you all for joining our little party. And again, want to wish you a great and safe and luminous and inspiring and devotional week. And let's remember, you're welcome to share something next week. I made a suggestion of a particular topic. What do we have favorable? What do we have not favorable for dialogue within our own society? But someone might want to go on and on about that subject. Let's remember we're keeping these short presentations, aiming at around 5 minutes. I might also mention, although we made this deadline of writing reflections for the second canto as the end of June, I think we're extending that, which means if your creative spirit, your creative juices are there and you have not written something, but you don't want to wait until we get around to third canto, then please go ahead and write something. But please do look again, and if you don't have it, get a copy of it. Look again at the invitation which I wrote, which gives some specific points to keep in mind for your writing. I know for some of you, the idea of writing is something like a punishment. This is not meant as a punishment. It's meant as an opportunity, opportunity to read, first of all, and to read with a reflective approach, active reading, in which we're looking at what we read and we're also looking at ourselves. And in this way, enriching our experience and making the experience of the Bhagavatam real for ourselves. Okay, Hare Krishna. I think we can stop there. Yes, tomorrow evening, I don't know how, you can maybe check on their website. I'm going to be giving the Sunday Feast lecture for the Brooklyn, New York temple tomorrow. Their time is 2:00 in the afternoon, and for me, it's going to be 8:00 in the evening. There may be an announcement if you search, I suppose, ISKCON New York, I think it's just called ISKCON NYC, something. You may find an announcement, and maybe there's some link that you can join if you like, and if you have time, and it's not past your bedtime. Okay? Czy jest w porządku? Is that okay?
W porządku.
Porządku. Thank you, Kavi Chandra, for your Polish translation. We kept you busy all this time. Yeah. We see Param Dhammananda is here. You're still in India. Yes. Okay. And Gokulananda Hari from Mexico. We're stretching around the world. Oh, okay. We also have Manibanda is online all the way from Buenos Aires. And we also had, I saw, yes, Sita Rani is there from Hong Kong, and also and also we saw Leela Mai Radha at some point. Yeah. Okay. Oh, and there's Kirtida Jivani. Hare Krishna. Okay. Thank you all very much. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnava ki jai. Nitai Gaur Premanande Hari Bo.
Hari Bo.
Thank you, Guru Maharaj. So see you next Saturday, right?
Hare Krishna.